Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. Today we are moving on to the differences between valuation models and Keynesian models. So this topic that we are going to discuss here is titled as valuation models versus Keynesian models. So let's start it the same here. So moving on to the ideas of validation models and Keynesian models, we could find that these are certain frameworks. So all these models are certain frameworks, and these models would be explaining the way in which economies function. So these two models are distinct views regarding the market behavior. One model deals with one way of explaining the market behavior, and the other model contradicts with the first model and tells some other explanation regarding market behavior. So we will be considering in detailed fashion both the models in today's session. We could find that both these models, that is a valuation model as well as Keynesian model, both these models were having a big gap. And neo-Keynesian economics, this was something that was bridging this gap. It was offering a nuanced perspective on economic fluctuation. So let's proceed with the differences between valuation and Keynesian models here. Moving to the specification of valuation models. So this is something that is constructed as per the ideas of a very famous economist, Leon Valdez. And when we talk about valuation models, we always assume a perfectly efficient kind of market. So whenever we consider all markets, we assume that all markets are perfect, perfectly efficient. And why are we considering this as perfectly efficient? Because we do have sometimes we call it as equilibrium happening here. Equilibrium is something that you can easily attain in every market under Leon Valdez models. So he says that supply as well as demand always instantly clear at the prevailing prices. And it's all about efficiency that Valdez is talking about in his models. So by giving you a very short intro regarding valuation models, let me take you to the Keynesian models. As the name suggests, this particular set of models is actually based on the ideas of John Maynard Keynes. What Keynes has done is that he has criticized the perfect market clearing mechanism. Instead, what Keynes had taken is the role of imperfection. So we will see the detailed kind of differences between these two models right here. Let's proceed for the same. Moving on to market equilibrium. The idea of market equilibrium is understood differently by these two models. Moving on to the explanation given by Valdez regarding market equilibrium, Valdez was always believing that all the markets would be clearing simultaneously. So it's all about equilibrium situation about which Valdez was talking. So we do have multiple markets in the economy, and all these markets would be clearing very instantly. Why? Because there is something called price mechanism. So the role of price mechanism is something that is identified to be a central part here. So this model believes that prices are perfectly flexible, and this flexibility in the prices would make the prices to adjust very instantly so that there would be equilibrium very soon. So once the economy is disturbed for some time, the economy will be attaining equilibrium very soon because the prices are very efficient here. It will be adjusting very soon. It is very perfectly flexible here. So that equilibrium would be restored. This is what Walras models believed. Now moving on to the Keynesian models here, based on market equilibrium. As per Keynes and Keynesian models, market might not always clear. So he was always talking about So might not always clear. So that means we are talking about disequilibrium. The possibility of disequilibrium was addressed by Keynes. He was always talking about some short-range fluctuations. So this can happen in the economy. Why? Because Keynes always believed that prices might not be very fast in order to make some adjustment in the economy. Instead, prices might be slow to make adjustment. He was talking about rigidity, price rigidity. And also, Keynes was talking about the role of expectation in the economy. Always, expectations will guide our behavior today. So, whatever decision that we take today is actually guided by the expectations that we will be having for a future. This is what Keynes believed in, or Keynesian models believed in. Now, what about the role of prices here? As far as role of prices is concerned, the valuation model believes that prices are everything in the economy. So price always had a very important role. The role of prices was highlighted by valuation models. So valuation model always believed that this is a central mechanism that coordinates economic activity. So prices would be flexible. As I was telling earlier, prices is flexible in the economy, and for the very same reason, prices would be able to adjust very soon if there is a disturbance happening in the economy, and equilibrium will be restored. So that is the role of prices, and that is why we are giving central position to prices here. Now, what about Keynesian way of perspective here? Keynes always believed that prices, this is not that effective because prices are always or sometimes rigid and sticky. So it would be slow to adjust in the short run, and sometimes the prices might not be able to address certain fluctuations in the economy, like prices will be ineffective or inefficient. Apart from prices, as per Keynes and Keynesian models, there have been many other factors influencing the economy. So many other factors influencing economic behaviors were addressed by Keynes, and among them, one prominent factor is aggregate demand. So as far as Keynes was concerned, or as far as Keynesian models were concerned, the role of aggregate demand was very much highlighted and stressed. Now, what about the focus? Always, Walras was focusing on, or valuation models were focusing on something called long run equilibrium. And also, these models focused on the efficiency. But the problem here is that valuation model always struggle to explain some real life phenomena. For example, if you consider some real life fluctuations in the economy, leading to some problems like recession, unemployment, etc. So whenever these kind of things come, valuation model fails to explain such things because this is all inefficiency kind of things happening in the economy. So Walras model fails to explain such kind of real world inefficiency. Now, moving on to the Keynesian models, what happens is that Keynes always focus on short-run fluctuation. He was not concerned about this long-run equilibrium scenario. Instead, he always focused on short-run fluctuations. So, for the very same reason, Keynes was always giving some solutions to the problems like recession, unemployment, etc. So, if you look to what happened in 1930s and all, you could be able to find the kind of solution that was offered by Keynes. Keynes was the one who always believed in the role of government intervention. So, as far as Keynes was concerned, he always believed that government intervention is very important in the economy because that is very much important to ensure stability in the economy. If at all we are having some recessionary phase or unemployment related phase or depressionary situation in the economy, in such instances, the role of government is inevitable. This was what Keynesian models believed in. Now, what about the strengths and weakness of both Keynesian as well as valuation model? To start with the valuation model here, valuation model, as far as the strength is concerned, it's a simple framework. Simple framework that explains the market behavior. Very, very simple model. And the weakness here is that it has got limited applicability, because sometimes we could find that in most of the instances it is unrealistic because it doesn't take into consideration some fluctuations or problematic scenario of the economy, doesn't address as something called unemployment or recession kind of things in the economy. So it is a limited kind of applicability that we have for valuation model. So that is addressed as a limitation of this model. It's a weakness of this particular model. Now, what about the strength and weakness of Keynesian models? Moving on to the strength of Keynesian models, it's more realistic because I was told you in the very beginning that it explains short-run economic fluctuations. If you have something called unemployment, recession, depression kind of things, what Keynesian model does here is that it will be addressing such realistic situations, such economic fluctuations, and also it provides for some solution. And how does it provide for solution? It always tells about the role of government in the economy. So it always highlights the role of government in ensuring what is called stability. So fiscal policy is always highlighted by Keynesian models. Now, coming to the weakness of Keynesian models, it's a little bit complex kind of model. It doesn't mean that it's completely and equally same as what we have in the case of valuation perspective. No, as I was telling you, the perspective that is being developed by Valdez is completely different from what is being developed by Keynes. So when it comes to Keynesian model, since it is considering reality, since it is very much connected to reality, it's very complex too. But at the same time, what happens is that it deals with the effectiveness of the government in the economy. It deals with the effectiveness of fiscal policy in the economy if there is a problem happening. But again, you need to think whether this government is always effective in dealing with the problems of the economy to ensure this stability kind of aspect. Is the government always efficient? There are certain instances, sometimes the government might be failing to create stability in the economy. So you might have heard about something called PPP, that is public-private partnership. Sometimes what the government itself would be doing here is that the government will be going for inviting private players into the economy so that these private players would be making investment. This will be making the government to transform some loss creating sectors to some profit creating sector. So what happens here is that this is identified as a weakness of Keynesian model because in certain instances we might be requiring to question the effectiveness of government in the economy when we talk about ensuring stability in the economy. So the effectiveness of government could be debated in such instance. Now, in essence, what we could find here is that valuation models are something which deals with a perfectly coordinated markets. It is something that deals with perfection. It is something that deals with efficiency and so on. So it talks about the role of prices. It tells that, okay, the prices is the central factor which does every work in the economy. It is the one that ensures equilibrium in the economy because prices are flexible. And for the very same reason, it is the one which is adjusting and readjusting to ensure that we are having equilibrium, to ensure that we are having demand equals supply, even in the long run. But when it comes to Keynesian model questions the entire working mechanism of valuation model, and Keynesian models criticizes the same and tells that no such kind of things won't happen because we do have a possibility of disequilibrium in the economy. Even in the short run, this can happen. And why disequilibrium? This is due to imperfections in the economy because the economy is not always perfect. We will be having unemployment, we will be having poverty, we will be having something called recession, depression, etc. These are situations of instability. So what we require is some kind of policies to come out of such problem, and here comes the role of government. Government will be intervening in the economy to ensure economic stability, and this is what the basic idea of Keynesian model. So in essence, what we could find here is that both these are very important models, both valuation model as well as Keynesian model. Both are important models in the economy. But the problem here is that both are contrasting. So both offer contrasting perspective on the functions of the economy, on economic behavior, and so on. Valuation model is something that offers as a foundation for understanding market efficiency, but at the same time, if you consider Keynesian model, it's a little more realistic because it deals with the dynamics part of the economy, the fluctuation part of the economy, the instability part of the economy as well. So we are having two contradictory sides of the same economy by having these two types of models. Now, when you consider something called neo-Keynesian economics, so neo-Keynesian economics emerged as a kind of synthesis. So what this had done is that it was analyzing the complexities of the short-term economic behavior. It was recognizing certain aspects like market imperfections, microeconomic foundation, short-term focus, etc. So we will be learning in a detailed fashion what is called neoclassical economics in our coming videos as well. So that is all for today. I request you to download the Learn Economy app. If you download it, you will be getting the previous year question papers and answers. You will be getting free study materials. You will be getting live as well as recorded classes, and also free MCQ-based weekly tests is available. The only thing that you have to do is just download it. So I'll be providing the link of this in the description box. You can use the same. Another thing to tell you is you can join our free Telegram community for discussion. For this also, I'll be providing the link in the description box. Again, my request is to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more videos. And thank you for watching.